So I'm taking my actual hanger to do a hanger swirl. I know it's unheard of. It's a little crazy what we do over here in Witchdom. Welcome back, friends. If you're new here, hey, it is Lauren the Soap Witch, and this here happy little corner of the internet is where I play in my hair, mix up my magical concoctions, and sometimes even go completely rogue on a recipe in the kitchen. So today we're stirring up a magical concoction in the form of aloe vera soap scented with lovely fall magic. So starting off, I am measuring out my aloe vera juice. I'm going to follow that up with some regular granulated sugar, and the purpose of the sugar is to help with fluidity during the cook, and also it helps make the end result a little more bubbly. And then I'm going to add some sodium lactate, also added to help with fluidity during the cook, and also helps to make the end result a bit of a harder bar. And then I like to stir those additives into my aloe vera juice just to make sure they're completely dissolved before I go in with my lye. Speaking of, let's go ahead and measure out that lye. And then I'm going to stir while dumping the lye into the cup. You want to be careful about pouring it in. You don't want it spilling everywhere, but I do like to kind of quickly pour it in there. I feel like it keeps the solution hotter for longer. So I like to stir. It starts off pretty cloudy. I like to stir until it's a little less cloudy, because it's not water. It's not going to go all the way clear. My mouth is trying to sabotage me, and we are like 2 minutes in. Okay, anyway. It's not water. It's not going to go all the way clear, but it can be less cloudy. But I still want it to be hot, at least 180 degrees. I want my oils to be about 200 degrees, but no less than 180 degrees. This is countertop hot process, and you want everything to be hot when you combine it. So now I'm stick blending everything together. You can see it's coming together. It's going to go through a nice emulsion phase, and then we're going to get to trace, which is kind of like pudding. That's how people always described it. I think it's like a looser kind of pudding, but it does give you an idea of what to look for. So we hit that stage. This used to be where I would just put the top on and wait for a volcano, but I like to stick blend pretty much to completion now. So we're just going to keep going all the way through trace. And then as we keep stick blending, we will notice that the soap is starting to look a little grainy, a little less put together, if you will. And we want to keep going through that stage because we just want to. Okay, sorry. Continuing on, it's definitely starting to get that look where it's not quite so together anymore. Very grainy looking. Looks like it wants to separate. We know we're definitely on the right track when it starts looking this way. I know it don't look like it. Look like we're moving backwards or something. We not. I promise. We're just gonna keep it trucking, keep it moving though, and eventually this is where I start to check to see if it's gonna volcano. No volcano, but it is cooking under there, because when I stick my stick blender back in there, it's thicker and chunkier. So this is when I start what I call my stirring pulsing phase, where I'm just pulsing the stick blender as I stir. You may start seeing bubbles like it's wanting to boil. I'm checking for another volcano. It's not really happening. The volcano indicates that we're getting closer and closer to doneness, but it is still cooking because every time I put my stick blender in there, it's really thick. And so it's getting thick. I'm doing my pulsing stir and proceeding on. I pulse it because I don't want to wear out my poor stick blender, you know. So anyway, looking for another volcano, which I am getting. I just kind of cut to where it finally did start the volcano. I don't know if I mentioned it. Yes, I have. I know I mentioned it. That's like one of my favorite parts of soaping is the whole volcano, because it's so cool. Science is the bomb. Okay, I'm old. Did I just show my age? I don't care. I don't care. All right, so gonna stick blend and pulse this back together. It's like kind of, I feel like, equivalent to all the excessive stirring that I used to do before, only it goes faster because I'm stick blending. So, you know, it goes through the phase. We're getting a little apple saucy. It starts to look a little, what they call it, mashed potato-y. Yeah. And so you can see it is rising and volcanoing as I fool with my stick blender. And if you start to see while you're stick blending that it's still wanting to volcano as you're stick blending, you're pretty much done there. So that's kind of what was happening to me. You could see like the lighter, whiter parts peeking up through the soap as I was stick blending. That's why I stopped. And it's just, now I'm just, you know, giving the volcano all its glory. Okay, so now we're going to stir this into submission. It's looking very mashed potato-y here. I think the people, I've said this before, I think the people that were talking about the steps and the stages must have been hungry, because first it was applesauce and then it was mashed potato. Okay, except for the end. Nobody's Vaseline, I hope not. But anyway, moving along. When you get toward the end, it does start to look more Vaseline like. When I stir, I like to scrape the sides of the pot, so you will see me stir and scrape the sides. You'll notice that the mixture is starting to get quite a bit looser from where it just was. That's a good sign. So the loosening up of the concoction, if you will, along with the shiny, solid, more put together appearance it has now toward the end, like Vaseline kind of, is all an indicator that you're pretty much done with your soap. So next I'm going to add my full fat Greek yogurt. Yours does not have to be full fat or Greek. You can just plain though, for goodness sake. And then once you add that in, give that a nice thorough mix. This also helps with fluidity. All these things are how I get my soap to be fluid. Also mixing it at very high temperatures and making sure that the pot that I'm using for my soap mixture isn't overly large. Though if it is, you could cover the top with saran wrap and that would help to keep too much from evaporating. Too much liquid. Okay, so gonna measure out my Fall Magic fragrance, which is pretty delectable and fall-like, especially as we're getting closer to that season. And this is an orange from Mad Mica. I can't quite remember what that one is called. So sorry. I know the names are great. Another brown, not another, but a brown from Mad Mica. I meant another Mad Mica color. That one is Sexy Stranger on a Train. What is the orange one called? It doesn't matter. I'll remember next time I use an orange. Okay. And then that's just activated charcoal for black, because I don't know. That's just what I started using for black, and that's what I keep using for black. And now we're going to mix in the fragrance. What I cut out was me accidentally almost sabotaging myself and starting to separate the soap before I added the fragrance. So I had to dump it back in there and then mix the fragrance in, give it a thorough stir. I've noticed if I don't obsessively stir it that it will not and be incorporated fully in the soap like I need, and nobody wants that. Okay, so measuring out all the soap into my different containers, and now I am stirring the colors in. I usually do like a circular and then like a scoop up type of motion. It needs to be a little bit more vigorously stirred than cold processed soap because it is thicker, even though it is fluid. Maybe it's some kind of pumpkin. Okay, it's bothering me, isn't it, that I can't remember what the orange is called. I should have looked before I started, but I usually remember the names. That is, we're gonna stop ADHDing on that, okay, because we just harping on it now. Okay, stirring in the orange. Finally, we're gonna stir in the black. Whenever I use black, I tend to make it a smaller amount in the soap because it will take over. I don't know how or why, but it will absolutely take over unless you're wanting that. So now we're going for the pour. You know, I like to pour it in contrasting order. So I go dark, light, or if I have two lights in the dark, I go light, dark, or if I have several that are light and dark, you get the picture, right? I'm over explaining it. I'll try to tell you that. I'm sorry. So anyway, I'm just swishing this around at the bottom of the mold because I want the whole bottom to be covered in the brown. And then I'm going in with orange, which is obviously lighter in my opinion. And then I'm going to follow up after I get to banging that on the counter because I want soaps to be all immersed within each other. Going to follow up with black. I'm just going to keep repeating that order color until I get all of the soap poured, continuously slamming that down on the table. Did I say counter earlier? It don't matter, you know what I meant. On the table until I get all the colors poured into the mold, and I like to just make sure they're all solidly kind of connected together. Some people have said that their soaps have stayed separate after they've done the pouring. We avoiding that here. So I'm taking my actual hanger to do a hanger swirl. I know it's unheard of, it's a little crazy what we do over here in Wichita. Anyway, so I'm just doing some figure eights and then some all the way arounds in either direction, because why not? And that's pretty much it for the swirling. Okay, and then I'm gonna add my glitter on top. I found that adding my glitter on top and then swirling the top makes the glitter stay better, because before it would just like float off the top of the soap and make me aggravated. Okay, so now that that's pretty much all finished and we all pretty and glittery, this is what we got in the mold. I'm gonna let that sit in the freezer for 5 or 6 hours, then take it out. I will demold it and then let it completely thaw before I pull it out. So that's the first cut. Ain't she pretty? I'm a fan. Okay, next I'm going to take a paper towel and wipe the wire before I go down with the next cut, so I don't drag residue through the next soaps, because that's not cute. And then I'm going to do that same process all the way through. So gonna let you enjoy the rest of this cut. I really enjoyed making this soap. This is one of my new fall collections that I've just recently released. There's a link down below if you're interested in checking it out. If you enjoyed the special brand of sorcery I brought to these here internets, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you for hanging out, and I will see you in the next one.